how many people do you know who are walking around with something today? And this is the key, is that the something we're walking around with that we don't think anything of, we're like, hey, it's great that we have it. Right? Like
Right.
I'm blessed to be able to have this ring or this watch or whatever those things are. And yet literally you are buying things. This is what the guy who wrote A Psychology of Money, Martin Mousel. Can you pull that
Housel.
up?
Morgan Housel.
Morgan
Yeah.
Housel. So
I thought you were going Burt Malkiel like way back in the day. I was like,
I'm going that deep.
Morgan.
But he talked about the fact that when we buy something that is a status-based thing, what we think is other people are going to think we're successful because we have it. And I will say there is a difference. I want to share just from my heart. At one point, years ago, I was the guy who looked a certain way. I had the European import sports car, had the house that looked a certain way, the office that looked a certain way. I dressed a certain way all the time. And it was all about maintaining this image. And we do those things because we want people to think that we're successful because, say, we showed them the car or we showed them whatever. But if you think about what you think about when you see somebody in a Ferrari, you don't even think that you think they're successful. Think about your own internal thoughts. What goes on between your ears is some version of, if I had that, people would say I'm successful. That is all anybody says to themselves. When we go out and get a cool thing or a killer watch or whatever, we think other people are thinking we're successful, and all they're thinking is, if I had that, people would think I'm successful.
Yeah.
And it is literally a loop.
And Chad's point, is that he had already gotten so successful that his name was more valuable than...
He goes by Ocho. We're calling him Ocho.
Yeah.
The rest of... Chad cannot be... Chad is... We're dead naming him. We can't
Chad
dead name Ocho Cinco.
Chad to his best pals.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ocho's saying, like, why am I buying that $50,000 watch when my name is worth more than that anyway? I think he has some more. It just gets better and better. I think we should play some more.
We're going to go back into it, but this is the thing I wanted to share that was a little bit of mine. I almost got off on track. Is that I now drive, if you guys don't know, like I live on 5 acres. I just as soon cut wood. We're going to do some videos out here for everybody so y'all can just see the environment that I'm in daily, and do some stuff from Cory and Jeff in the future. But it's this idea that, like, I walk outside here and I can split wood. Right outside my office, I've got a side-by-side parked. It's all I can do to not get out of the shirt, get on a t-shirt, and get outside on the property doing something on a daily basis. But when I go to church and I drive the Ford Explorer that I tow behind the RV for our long RV trips, and I'm wearing jeans and like a regular shirt, I don't think there's anybody at church, I've been going to church for the last 5.5 years, except for my CPA that goes to the same church, that has any idea how much money we make. And I will say, from a personal perspective, because I don't want to take this lightly, I went through the stage where I was very much looked high status from the outside, to the point where I said, nope, I'm pulling it all back in. We're going to take really good care of the finances of our household. And I realized there's a bunch of stuff I don't care about that I thought I needed to care about because of my career. If any of you think of doing what Ocho Cinco's done, there is something missing. When you've gone from being a high status person who kind of announced your status in the car you drove up into the place, or what you were wearing, or what was on your wrist, it is more effort to bring enough value to people that they will engage you like you're a high value, important person that rolled up in the Bentley, but only because of how you interacted and cared for people. But it is different. The new people come to church. And when I was in the old way of being, a new person that came to church would know that I owned a financial firm, where do we get around? And now I just show up like a regular guy. It is a different kind of life, but it also puts you in a position that the environment doesn't put pressure on you to spend money anymore.
Right.
So,
Paul, I think about conversations we had with advisors in the firm when we were recruiting a bunch of advisors at one point, where they thought they needed to have the nice car, and it was just like asking, well, you drive to the office, they come and see you here at the office. Like, when do they actually ever see your car? When do you, so, for most of us, if you think you're doing it as a status symbol, ask yourself, do the people that you want to impress actually ever see it in the first place? Like, the only one I could really think of that could make a difference is maybe if you're a realtor and you're taking people around all the time, you don't have a nice car. But consider that maybe it helps. Maybe it promotes this business of success and wonderfulness, but maybe your client gets in the car and they're thinking, oh, they really do have to sell me this house today to avoid this car. Like, you don't know. You can't control what the other person's thinking.
Think about it. If that was your strategy and you have an Audi A8 with a $1,500 a month lease, you definitely paid more than you should have through 2020 and 2021 because you weren't having people in your car anyway. Like, that was not, that wasn't as useful. But that's the thing, is that how deep is the value? That's the question. If they don't see the car, they're not going to see the car. If it's just been the habit that you've always driven a nice car because you were in sales, but now you're the president of an organization, you work in the big corner office, you never leave the office during the day. Now it might be time to go, wait a second, why am I still paying $1,500 a month on a lease every 2 years instead of just buying a normal car? Food for thought. Let's get back to it here.
For yes, for what? What am I doing it for? The women don't deal with you anyway because of who you are.
Right.
And then the other women who really doing their homework, don't Google how much you're making already.
Right.
Why am I buying a $50,000 watch?
Now
right? If they want you for your money, they already knew how much. You don't have to spend it on something ahead of time to prove to them they were right. They already know they're right. So what's this?
Well, and I'll give you now, from a dating perspective, if you're a young, high-earning professional or recently divorced or anything like that, like there's potential attraction there that you can produce with the opposite sex. But the drawback is, at least what I hear and what he says, is I want the women that are smart enough to know that buying the flashy watch isn't the move. The ones who know to research my net worth and what my contract is, because they're going to look past me drive. I think it was Emmitt Smith won the Super Bowl twice before he stopped driving that little 2-door Honda sports car, the CRX. Nice. It used to be manufactured. It's like the people who you care about interacting with and care about interacting with you, he's talking about women, but I think it works equally in business. If people can't do the research, like, would you deal with a financial advisor because of a slamming watch, or would you rather have one that has nearly 300 podcast episodes? You decide. I'd rather spend my money on this podcast than a Rolex.